This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, I'm Sabrina Brown. Thank you for joining us. The Bahamas Institute of Chartered Accountants meeting on Grand Bahama to discuss their role in the recovery efforts, challenges and opportunities for the accounting profession during a week-long seminar at the Pelican Bay Resort. The Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, the Honorable Iram Lewis, addressed the professionals this morning, outlining the role of his new ministry.
Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, the Honorable Iram Lewis, addressing chartered accountants Friday morning to discuss the role of his new ministry and the progress being made in the reconstruction efforts on Grand Bahama and Abaco. Minister Lewis noted that the creation of this ministry was essential to streamline the rebuilding efforts.
In short order, the legislation in which authorizations were given to establish the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction and the Disaster Reconstruction Authority will be gazetted, thus giving rise to new modalities in preparing, recovering and reconstruction in the event of a disaster. It is worth noting the Ministry will assume responsibility for both NEMA and the authority. As for NEMA, this department will continue to operate as government agencies with responsibilities inclusive of planning and undertaking relief and recovery activities, recovery quick response and recovery one.
He noted that Hurricane Dorian was historic as well as the damage it left behind. He said that in an effort to restore normalcy to the islands and Keys, the delivery units in the Office of the Prime Minister, with assistance from essential government agencies, will introduce a comprehensive plan structured in 6 pillars.
Infrastructure. We have to ensure that our roadways, our harbors, our seaports, airports are up and running. The economy. We have to ensure that as many persons as possible get to work and commerce is restored. Health. We want to ensure that everyone has access to health care. Education. We want to ensure that our schools are repaired and our children have access to education. The environment. We want to ensure that environment is clean. Every community is clean. Housing. We want to ensure that all of those displaced persons have access to permanent housing at the end of the day. Unfortunately, I am not at liberty to disclose much of the plan, as the document is in its final stages of completion and will require sanctioning by machineries in government.
Minister Lewis noted that an essential part of reconstruction is acceptable living conditions for residents, and he shared what is being done throughout the islands.
Subject to engineers' report, 3,637 households were compromised from the storm, and the degree of damages range from the totally destroyed to minor damages. As you would be aware, the majority of household compromise was on the island of Abaco, and more specifically in the district of Marsh Harbor. In restoring normalcy to the islands and Keys, the government has taken the position that a key element in the process of rebuilding starts with providing temporary housing to accommodate families, workmen, and government staff. To address the severe shortage of housing, a family relief center will be created on the island of Abaco near Spring City and will comprise, in the first instance, 270 dome-shaped structures with the ability to withstand up to 200 miles per hour wind.
Minister Lewis indicated that he is open to all suggestions from chartered accountants in the rebuilding efforts of Grand Bahama and Abaco. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
A prominent Grand Bahama family is appealing for prayers tonight as they search for their daughter who went missing in the United States several weeks ago. In this report, we speak with the heartbroken father who describes the situation as a mystery.
My wife Janice and I are so grateful for the outpouring of prayers and support from so many people from all over the United States in the Bahamas in the past several days.
Prominent Catholic deacon Jeff Hollingsworth confirming to ZNS News that his 35-year-old daughter Janelle went missing in New York last month after she checked out of a lower Manhattan hotel.
She was returning home to the Bahamas after visiting with friends in the UK, flying from London Heathrow Airport overnighting in New York before catching an early morning flight to the Lynden Pindling Airport in Nassau, since the airport here in Freeport is still not back in service. Arriving on Friday, that was our expected date of arrival, Friday, October 25th at 11 a.m. on the JetBlue airline. However, family members were there to receive her at that flight. She was not on the flight.
He says the last time the family heard from Janelle was on October 23rd, and she did not say that there were any changes to her flight plan. So when she did not make her flight, the family immediately became concerned.
A few days later, her mother, Janice, received a call from the Bahamas consulate in New York, informing us that Janelle's passport and other documents were found by someone in Lower Manhattan and had been mailed to the consulate office in New York. Based on this information and with the tremendous assistance from the excellent staff at the Bahamas consulate in New York, a missing persons complaint was immediately filed with the New York Police Department, NYPD. And this is now a police matter. We have been in contact with the lead detective from the missing persons squad at NYPD. We feel confident that this situation is now being given the highest priority based on my conversation with him.
The family then contacted the New York Police Department.
I've been assured by this lead detective and by others who know the business that they have a checklist, a very thorough one, and they're going down their checklist with all leads, everything that they can possibly turn over, whatever stone they can turn over, they will turn over. They will not stop until they find my daughter, and I believe that. I believe that she will be found.
Deacon Jeff says the ordeal is heart-wrenching, particularly in light of the recent devastating storm.
It's been, especially coming off of the recent death of several close family members in our family, and also the devastation by Hurricane Dorian, where we cry for the many people and some very close friends who are still missing. For this now to happen at the end of October, the family is devastated.
He says the Bahamas consulate staff in New York and Miami have assisted the family greatly.
I'm truly grateful for the assistance of His Excellency Lawrence Cartwright and his wonderful staff at the Bahamas consulate in New York, and the Bahamas liaison officer Woodside, stationed at the Miami consulate, because they were the ones who were instrumental in helping me to expedite the missing persons, the filing of the missing persons complaint, without me personally being there to do so.
The Hollingsworth family is also grateful for the outpouring of prayers and support from near and far.
John 14:1 says, "Let not your hearts be troubled, but just have faith." And right now our faith is tested to the maximum, where that faith, as much as the grain of a mustard seed, we got to hold on to whatever you have. Please let us pray unceasingly to our all-knowing, merciful, and all-loving God for Janelle's welfare and for her safe return back home to the Bahamas and to her family. This is a praying matter now, and so let us pray.
The island of Abaco is slowly returning to normalcy. Tonight, Megan Shepard tells us about another effort to assist in the restoration and rebuilding efforts on that northern island.
In order for Abaconians to return to the island, essential services must be up and running. And in order for those services to get started once again, the workers must have a place to live. So the administrator for North and Central Abaco says that over 100 RVs are earmarked for government workers here on the island.
There are agencies that are getting up and running, this complex in particular, but one of the greatest challenges that Central Abaco in particular, families remain displaced. And so for government to function, you have to locate or find housing for government employees. And so there is an aggressive push to provide housing for persons who need to come back and get government up and running. Because we see people come on a daily basis requiring services like building permit, business licenses, NIB services, and they're asking for various agencies. So we know that we need our people, treasury, persons need to be paid. And so we know that people need to be on the ground. But housing is an issue, so we're pushing to get them in some form of housing for on a temporary basis.
Boodle Lang adds that the RVs will be critical in creating not only a sense of normalcy for the government workers, but also residents who need to utilize their services.
All of the ministries have submitted to NEMA and to the National Recovery Disaster Preparedness Committee all of their requests. So for example, HAL has indicated they need 15 trailers, or local government has indicated about 10 trailers. So the request is there, and so as best the first group of trailers has to be prioritized for critical agencies, and so we're hoping that the government is able to supply all of the trailers that are requested by the various agencies, because Ministry of Works in particular is a critical agency right now, and so we need to make sure that their people are on the ground and are able to execute their duties.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us, there's more news after this.